We're here today with Kelly Swanson. Kelly just came in to Dallas from High Point, North Carolina, the furniture capital of the world. Also,
home of High Point University.
Go High Point University. Yep. Did you go to the High Point University?
No, I didn't.
Okay, but that's your favorite university.
Well, we live right across the street. You got to pay homage to HBU.
Yeah, that's
I'm just saying.
That's the home field advantage,
they're a friend of speakers. Let's just put it that way. Right?
That's cool. Well, Kelly, thank you so much for coming in today.
Yeah, sure.
You're here for NSA North Texas. Tomorrow, you're going to be our keynote speaker at our easy for me to say, at our monthly meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Can't wait to hear what you had to say. I know you're just going to bring so much information. And I've got to tell you this. I called you today to confirm tonight. And when I heard your voicemail, I just started smiling. If you want to smile, and like if you're down in the dumps and you want to be picked up, call her voicemail.
Because at least you can say, at least I don't sound like her.
No. It was just so friendly. It was invigorating.
Well,
it was light. It was airy.
Thanks. And I had to do it about 10 times till I sounded, cheery.
That's okay.
Happy.
That's all right. But it made me feel really good. So thank you already for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Now you have 2 books out.
I do.
Okay.
I do. Who Hijacked My Fairy Tale? That's been out a while. And The Story Formula, How to Connect and Engage Through Strategic Storytelling.
And when did that come out?
God, I don't know.
Recently.
Ish. A year ago, maybe.
Okay.
Maybe.
All right.
We'll just say recently. If
All
that
right.
makes it sound more exciting.
And you've been speaking in the speaking industry for 15 plus years.
Yep, 15. I was a storyteller before that. So whether that counts or not, I don't know. I was a professional storyteller for.
Okay, tell me about that.
Years.
I mean, to me, being a speaker is a professional storyteller.
Well, yeah. Well, you make more money when you're a speaker than you do as a storyteller. It's really kind of an art form. They kind of have a small cult following. There's storytelling festivals and guilds and clubs all over the United States. But that's what I fell into first. I guess you could say I fell into the art of story before I fell into a way to actually make a decent living telling stories.
Okay.
So the art came first for me as a performer.
Right.
Kind of like Garrison Keillor's Lake Wobegon or Stuart McLean for those Canadians.
Okay. And then did you have to recraft your message for the speaking audience stage?
Yes. Because they like points, and you had to pull out the points, and it couldn't just be, I'm going to tell a bunch of stories. It had to be, what's the message for this audience, and how is it relevant, and what'll they pay me to teach them?
Right.
Versus, because there's one thing in having a craft and another thing in turning it into a livelihood.
Yes.
Difference.
Yeah. We all can tell stories. I mean, I've got great stories from my childhood, but no one's going to pay me to listen.
Right.
Until I can make them relevant to their problem or their solution, or make them see that they need to listen to me and why.
Sure. It comes from telling stories to just entertain and make people laugh and touch their hearts and blah, 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 to actually using story. And this is what I'll talk about while I'm here, and what I talk about with businesses, is how to take the story and actually use it as a tool of persuasion, and how to unpack it, and what are the pieces that need to be there. A lot of people don't really understand what a powerful tool it is and what it's doing to the brain. And so they think, well, I'm just going to tell a story because somebody said I should. But when you understand how it works and what it's allowing you to do with it, I mean, it literally allows you to plant ideas in people's minds. And that's unbelievable. And your data and your facts and your figures cannot do that alone. So it's a real powerful, as you can tell, I get real geeked out about it. I love it.
Well, I think facts and figures are like left brain, story is right brain. I'm a creative. I'm right brain always.
Well, but I'm reading a book now. What is the book? 7 Stories Every Salesperson Should Tell, or something like that. And they're making the case that even left brain people, even in mathematics, that we still think, I'm not going to say this right, but in a narrative fashion, in a sequence of events, that even facts and figures follow along that same path. I don't want to confuse you too much because I'm going to get it wrong, but read that book. It's very fascinating.
Interesting.
That they're even saying it's not just you're not using the part of the brain you think you are. It's really fascinating read.
Nice. What did you, when you first started out, can you tell maybe some, and this video is for new speakers, it's for speakers that have been in the game a long time. It's for our chapter, and we have everybody from Gary, the world speaking champion, to beginner people that just came last week.
Sure.
So can you give maybe 2 or 3 points to a beginning speaker and what they should do to start out?
Sure. Well, if you are in NSA in any way, shape, or form, you're already doing the best thing you can do. And that is to surround yourself with people who know and people who have done it. So the first thing I'd say, hands down, is get to an NSA meeting. The second thing is learn the business. It's a business, and you have to learn the sales and the marketing. And I'm not going to give any advice on that in that arena, because that's not really my area of expertise, and there are plenty of people who know way more about that. Yeah. When it comes to your craft, when it comes to giving speeches, I believe the day of polished, campy, planned gestures, scripted to within an inch of its life, skits, performance, I think the day of that is over. And what is more powerful these days is authentic, real. You can still plan out your words but still learn to make it authentic. One great tip I can give new or seasoned speaker is to write your speeches the way you talk.
Okay.
And to talk the way you talk. Because when we write speeches, we have a tendency to write the way that we think it's supposed to be read. And then we wonder why we can't memorize it, why it's such a wall of words. So I changed my process and began sometimes I don't even write the complete sentences out. I'll just write out the fragments and practice talking it as I'm writing it. And that's the biggest shift the more the audience feels like you're having a real conversation with them in the room, the better.
The more you connect with them.
Yes, and that should be comforting, exciting news to speakers, especially the new ones, is that we don't want you to get up there and become somebody else. And you don't need to leap across the floor and, plan to cry at 30 minutes in. You can just be you. And whatever your personality is good enough.
Well, I think that when I started speaking, I tried to do what you said. I wrote it down word for word. There's no way I was going to give a 30, 40-minute hour speech word for word. I couldn't remember all that. Yeah. So then I went to bullet points. And I was in Toastmasters for several years, and that really helped me. Yes. Go Toastmasters, yes. Yeah. And I think, just remembering, what story comes next, or what trait or message do you want to say next? And then it comes out differently every time you say it. Right. And that's okay.
Right.
Then it's from the heart.
Right. Well, some of the words, though, when you come to humor, or when you come to places in a story, some of the way we place the words, what words we use, it matters. So there are some cases where I would say, that's a really good line, and if you don't say it that way, it's not going to have the same effect. So there are places where you can go, you know what, I'm going to remember how I described this person or this joke exactly the way it's written.
Sure.
Because it's like music and notes, and I think it is sometimes it is helpful to plan it out a little bit. Yeah.
Well, a minute ago you said that speaking is a business, and you have to be good at the business.
Yes.
Like photographer, videographer. That's what I do. Mm-hmm. Everybody that has an iPhone is a photographer, but being in business as a photographer, as a videographer, is the hard part.
Right.
And for me, being a speaker, I love to speak. I love to listen to my own voice.
Yes.
We all
don't we all?
We all do. But making money, asking somebody for money, knowing how to do it ethically and friendly and responsibly is what I think NSA is all about.
Right. Agreed. And we cover we cover the whole spectrum, from the craft to the business and to the ethics to all of that.
You bet.
I think something too that I see a pattern in speakers when it comes to the business. Your message is great. You can have a burning passion for what you talk about and a calling to go change the world, and all that's well and good. But you also need to think about what you're going to teach people to do, and what are they going to write the check for. Because you see a lot of people going, this is my message and it's for everybody. Yet I'm thinking, no, the boss is going to write a check for his people to be better on Monday. And what are you going to do to help them be better on Monday? And often that'll scare speakers and think, well, my message isn't good enough. It's too different. It's too weird. And I'll say, no, it just means you need to connect the dots between your message and the language they're speaking, or the pain that they have and the problems that you solve. Because a lot of times we get swept up, especially as motivational speakers, and I'm going to tell my story. I'm going to go encourage people, and we need to think it. A business is about selling something.
Yeah,
it's about solving a pain.
Providing a solution.
Yes, exactly.
I know that was one of the hardest things I did. I knew what I wanted to speak about, but how does it relate to what they need?
Right.
And that was so hard.
And don't talk yourself out of it. I mean,
no,
it's just information. You got to process it, and it's very competitive. I mean, there's a lot of us talking. I am not saying anything that somebody hadn't said before, written before. So we also have to think about how are we going to differentiate ourselves?
Right.
How are we going to be the one out of 7 other people speaking on photography that's going to find a way to stand out? And that doesn't have to be scary news, because what's so beautiful about being a speaker is they're not just paying for the information, or they could have just bought the book. Or
exactly, they're paying for you.
Yes. And the experience you bring. Nobody can take your stories. Nobody can take your personality. Nobody can take your life experiences. So that should be freeing news. That at the end of the day, when I worry, somebody took my content, or I just go, no. Come back to what your own story is.
They're not going to tell it the way you. They're not going to tell it the way you tell it. They're not going to present it the way you present it. We're all unique.
And they may find you, and they won't find you, and they won't find me.
Right.
I mean, we may never. There's so much business out there.
Or the personalities may not match.
Like Cavett said, the pie is big enough.
It is.
It truly is.
And guess what, Kelly?
What?
There's competition in everything we do.
Yeah.
You know, if you wanted to be a plumber, and all of a sudden tomorrow you're a plumber, you're going to see 20 other plumbers at lunch.
Yeah.
It's like buying the red car.
Yeah, well, exactly. And then you see it everywhere. And one thing I think is interesting, too, sometimes we take ourselves a little too seriously.
Really?
And
you think so?
Well, I do. You know, why didn't I do that? And the person on the 4th row didn't like it. And they said this, and they said that.
The one person out of 400 didn't like
this?
it.
And then sometimes I'm going to combine what several of us in the speaking business have been saying in those moments. We say some days you take your check and you go home. You're just doing a job. You know, the guy fixing your copier comes and he does his job. The speaker, you're just coming for an hour. You know, sometimes I'm like, Kelly, dial it down a notch. You were not here to change the world, and if you were, then you need to raise your fee because you're not being paid enough. You know? We're just doing a job.
But we always, I mean, for me, I want to do the best job possible.
Of course.
Every time.
Of course.
And if my clients aren't as thrilled as I am,
sure,
it crushes me.
Yeah,
I'm like, why didn't they get it? Why didn't they see how great? Why didn't they see how great we are?
Agreed. But a lot of times when we're lamenting or crying on each other's shoulder, it's not because the client gave us a bad review. It's because we wrote the story that said, you know, where we don't really have any facts to back it up. Now, if the client's not happy, that's okay.
That's a problem.
I read evaluations sometimes, but I shouldn't say this out loud. But for the most part now, 15 years in, I don't read them anymore. Because, I mean, maybe I'll look at, I know everybody's going to gasp and go, she's saying don't read your evals.
But you know how you did.
Well, no, I want the client to be happy. Is the client happy? Is the committee happy? Are there comments back to me? That's who I want to impress. If I've got to make every person in that room of 1,000 people happy, it's not possible. Yeah. So sometimes I'll skim them, but you know, it'll be that one that was like, you know, her lipstick was the wrong color that you just sends you spiraling.
Whatever.
Now
let's talk about the business of speaking. Yeah. Do you have a team that you work with or a support staff?
Not really. Well, it's our family's livelihood and our family's business. Okay. So my husband and I work in it together. He doesn't, you know, he's not answering the phones. He's doing more accounting and higher level business stuff. I don't have a virtual assistant. I'll operate on a shoestring. I outsource everything.
Okay.
So even though I don't hire someone, because I'm cheap, even though I don't hire someone, I still pay people to do the jobs that I don't think I need to be doing. Now, I should do it more, but hiring people to do your photography and your videography and to splice this and to dictate this, I'm getting more into that realm of, no, Kelly, your time's better spent focusing on what you're good at.
You bet.
Pay somebody to do data entry. Yeah. And it's really easy to outsource that kind of work.
It is now.
And I'm not putting down assistants. I think virtual assistants are great.
I totally
teams.
agree. Yes.
I'm just one of those. You know, I operate. It's a small little unit that I work in. Yeah.
That's nice. That's so nice.
As much of the money as I can have.
I'm the same way. I've got an assistant that I bring on board when I need to. Yeah. But it's like, other than that, if I can do it, keep the money in the family.
Yeah. Definitely. And there's so many apps and software, and thanks to e-speakers, I mean, so much of this is can be taken off of us. Definitely. It's not really that taxing.
Definitely.
You know, to book a gig.
All right. Let's change the focus just a little bit, and let's get back to what you talk about and how you came up with your message.
Okay. I'll try to give you the short answer. Okay. With me, that's not easy.
We've only got like 65 minutes here, so that's okay.
Yeah. For years, I was the funny motivational speaker. Mm-hmm. How to rewrite your inner script. See, believe, do, trust the cape. I would do events where they're looking for light, motivating, something to balance out all the heavy content during the day. And I still get that type of work, and I love it. So it's kind of what I'm doing here at your holiday party. I love that kind of work. However, I believe in being 2 or 3 steps ahead of ourselves in this business. What's coming? What are your other streams of revenue? What are you building that are going to grow? What happens if you can't travel anymore? All those things.
Okay.
And I began to see, and hanging around NSA, I began to realize that if I was going to make more money and grow my business, the only way to do it under this model was to either have a higher fee or work more. And I was already doing so many bookings. I was like, it's going to kill me to put more on the calendar. And I wasn't sure that the market, the value of what I was doing, could raise to the level of what I needed the fee to be. So I began to think about how to make myself more marketable. Okay. Now, of course, in that direction, I could have tried to create more streams of revenue under that. You know, do I want to write another book? Do I want to, do a motivate, whatever? Yes. Sure. But instead, what was brewing, and I saw it coming, was another topic area around story. Because thanks to NSA, my speaker friends were all asking me how to write these stories, how to tell them, help me with my speech. What do I do with this story? And, spirit of habit, you help everybody. Over time, I began to see patterns. And so I became really, really good at going in my own head and saying, well, what's this craft I'm doing? And how to actually see patterns in it and give it a formula and a template. Okay. So and then I began to look at, well, wait a minute, these stories aren't just, look at what they're doing, and wait a minute, if I would begin to see the results and how it could help me sell better, and how people were buying more products, how the story was making me more money. So then I began to study the power of story, and long story short, years later, I began to change my keynote. So I just began to sell a second keynote. Right. You can have me speak on this, or you can have me speak on storytelling in business. And when I would do that, and the keynote got better and better, I began to convince those people in the audience, because our speeches are sales presentations. Right. I began to convince them that they needed to know this tool, and they naturally started coming up. Well, how do we learn that? How teach our people? We need that in insurance. We need that. And I began to see that how this tool I was teaching could be applied to everybody. So all of a sudden, you were not the storyteller, you were the consultant, the trainer, the coach. Exactly. And I was in a little bit of as some say, a zeitgeist or a perfect storm, because storytelling, it's all been around, since Jesus. But I mean, but it's a popular term right now. Right. And so people are wanting to know how to do it. And it's talked about a lot, but it's not really taught a lot. Do you know what I'm saying? Yes. People walk away still like, what do we do with all this? And so and I'm so excited. It's a whole different world for me, because now they used to come to me for the show, and now some are coming to me for the content and the expertise. For the education. For the education. And it's a really weird feeling now. I see what it feels like being on the other side too. Kelly Swanson 2.0. 2.0. There you go. Yeah. There you go. There's the title of your new book right there. Kelly Swanson 2.0. I love it. Somebody's going to have it by tomorrow. Somebody will be URL tomorrow. It'll be gone. Yeah. Well, tell me a little bit about, you've been in 15 years. If a speaker is in here 5 to 8 years, what do you think the next step they should do to pick up their game and take them up? If you're at the 5 to 8 year mark, and understand, this business is weird. It's wacky. Nobody knows the rules. Every business model is as different as the speaker doing it, and everybody's giving you advice on how they got there from the road they took based on what their clients. It's a lot to wade through all of it. So I don't want to wear the hat of the business expert. I'm just going to give you an opinion based on where I was at the 5 to 8 year mark, and I had a bigger learning curve. Because Kelly, that was a long disclaimer. Oh, I know, right? Yeah. What can I say? I'm a storyteller. Anyway, but I had a long learning curve. Okay, but if people are frustrated out there, I've said this, and others have said it too. The 7 year mark was the mark where it finally started to kick in for me. Now, that's, some people are like, you've got to be kidding, and maybe you've got a shorter learning curve, or you actually came from some industry or expertise. I didn't. But around the 7 year mark it took me 7 years for us to go, this is an expensive hobby if we don't start figuring this out. So I had to learn everything. At the point of 5 to 8 years, my humble opinion is that you should have a good website by now. you should have some good video by now.
Of you on stage.
Of you on stage
right.
that accurately reflects the kind of work you're already getting. You know, game the system if you want and fake whatever.
Yeah.
But I think that comes back to bite you. But don't stress about it. We're all wanting better video and swapping it out as we go. It's all a work in progress. But you really should have some good video for them to make their selection.
Okay.
At the 5 to 8 year, you should already understand what your brand is. The biggest mistake I've made in this business was not collecting referrals from my audience. And the bigger every time. I should have been putting something in every seat, every time.
Yep.
And that's been my mistake. And I'm still working on trying to do it because I get lazy. And when it's hundreds, that's a lot. But you've got to ask them for those referrals. They'll give them to you. There's a lot of money on the table.
You bet.
If you're not leveraging every audience
you just have to
that
ask.
you're in front of.
Okay.
So that's at 5 to 8. I mean, you should start to be seeing the seeds that you've planted sprout. In my business and a lot of ours, it's a word of mouth business.
Sure.
And it takes some time for you to get a reputation and to get people talking about you. And I don't really do any cold calling.
Right.
Everything I do is word of mouth, bureaus, or drawing people from the internet.
That's nice.
And you should have a solid strategy at 5 to 8 years, I would say. Well, more than that. You should have, not that I did it, do as I say, not as I do. But blogs or articles or YouTube, you should have been feeding the beast consistently all the way along. And don't stress whether it's any good or not. Just get it out. Start. Start. Get your material out there.
I'm so bad about, I don't want anything on the website unless it's perfect. I started a new website last year, and I didn't want to tell anybody about it because it didn't meet my expectations. But I could have waited 10 years and it still wouldn't have. You have to start somewhere.
You have to start. And I used to, every time somebody would go, "We hate your website," I would go crawl in a corner with my thumb in my mouth. Well, and I'd have this sense of urgency like, "Oh, I got to fix it now. I'm losing business. And one of my friends, I get on the phone with her. I'm like, "Oh, I need a new website." She's like, "Kelly, calm down." One thing at a time. The world's not going to stop because your website isn't where it should be. And at the end of the day, this is what she said: a great website is not really what gets you booked.
Right.
There are all the pieces. I mean, at the end of the day,
it's the tickler.
At the end of the day, there's a reason word of mouth drives this business. It's people talking about you, and that can overcome. I mean, some of my videos, I'm like, oh, some of them on YouTube are so homegrown, and I can't remember my old channel's password or even know where it is to get them off.
Right,
I mean, there's things going way back that kill me. But what are you going to do, right?
Right. People will look at the website once and they'll never look at it again.
Well, at least the way I look at it is I'm not over-promising. I mean, that way I know for sure I'm going to be better than that video you saw.
Right.
It's like the headshot. Somebody just a little funny. Somebody found a headshot for an event that was like when I was 12.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, it was like glamour shot.
And they
used it in the promo, and I saw it. And I was like, and I called them up, and I was like, I think I had my friend take it. I was like, oh my God, I just want you to know I'm about to come to your event, tomorrow, and I do not look like this. I'm going to show up 30 years later, and they laughed. I showed them a picture, and they felt bad. I didn't want them to feel bad, but isn't that funny?
Yeah. Unfortunately, with the internet, everything lives on.
Yeah.
You can never get rid of really anything anymore.
I know.
Well, tell me about what would you? We have just a couple more minutes. Let's wrap up.
Okay.
Do you want to say anything to the speaking audience about, how much you've appreciated their help? Thank people that have helped.
They haven't helped me a bit. No. Okay.
I don't think that's true at all.
I'm teasing. Okay. Yeah. Let me. First of all, I want to say, if you're new to NSA, it can be overwhelming sometimes. It can be daunting. It can be intimidating. Just keep coming. Get over it. Wade through. You might find some egos. Keep on going. I've met my best friends in this business, and I've met people that I can call and have a legal question, a photography question, a video question, a website, and I'm always 2 or 3 people away from somebody who can answer my question and is happy to get on the phone. I mean, having a tribe of people like that are willing, that have your back is
unheard of.
It really is. You can't put a value on it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that really means a lot to me. And that some of them are just the big name speakers that will sit down and you sometimes you feel like you're just still at the little kids table, and one of the big kids sits down right beside you and they just treat you like equal. It means so much. And if you are seasoned and have been around the block like I have, don't forget what that felt like to be new, and so that we can kind of come alongside of other people. And another thing too, and I've said this to some of my friends before, I got in this business, like I said, 15 years ago with a clear idea of who I was and what I wanted to do, and the art that I wanted to create. And I buried it, and I walked away from it because I looked around and it didn't look like anybody else's model. Or I would hear things like, it won't sell, they won't buy it, that's too weird. Or they didn't say it and I was saying it myself.
Right.
And so I want to encourage you to not sit on your gifts or the things that make you different, because I have spent 15 years trying to get back to where I started. And I think we have a lot of talent. Just because you're in here for the first time, we have a lot of people with amazing gifts and talents. I just would hate for us to turn each other into commodities. Right. Life is too short, and the future is going to require something cutting edge, something new, fresh, relevant, different. And those people are already in our midst. I just hope they have the courage to listen to the advice, learn, and then stand tall in who you want to be and what you want to create as your legacy.
That's great. Well, Kelly, thank you for joining us today.
Welcome,
I appreciate it. I hope your travels go well, and I hope next year is just a fabulous banner year for you.
Thank you. Same for you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Bye, everybody.
Give me a high five.
See you soon.